Rudo is a poor son of a criminal who gets bullied by random kids, but one day, he's accused of a crime he didn't commit and dropped into the pit, which turns out to be a whole new world where he discovers that he has superpowers. Girl tells her mother her stuffed toy's broken, so her mom says they'll just buy her a new one and throws it away. Later, an apostle spots someone digging through and suddenly realizes he's the trash hoarder, so he tries to arrest him. However, the boy quickly runs away, so the apostles shoot at him and manage to hit him on the shoulder even though he escapes. The next morning, a man from the tribe's folk overhears some women talking about the trash hoarder. He walks out of the city and into the slums. As the boy from before, Rudo, is sitting alone on the street, a girl, Chiwa, asks why he puts himself in danger so much. A group of bullies walk over and start insulting Rudo. One of them says he's a criminal because his dad was a homicidal maniac as well, but when Rudo angrily glares at him, he quickly leaves with the other two boys. Chiwa comfortingly tells Rudo she doesn't think he's a criminal, and notices the stuffed rabbit. She says it's really quiet, so Rudo is embarrassingly about to offer it to her, but her mom calls her over. Rudo heads back to his hut where he meets the man from before, Retko, who teases him about Chiwa and says he should confess his feelings to her. He notices that Rudo's shoulder is injured and patches him up, so Rudo takes off his gloves that hide his injured hands. He remarks that everyone looked down on him and his injuries, but Retko gave him gloves to cover his injuries and took him in, so he loves Retko more than anyone in this world. The next morning, Rudo watches a man get thrown into the pit, and Chiwa says it's really sad how they're forced to watch people get killed. After they talk a bit, Rudo manages to give her the stuffed rabbit, so she happily accepts it and says she'll treasure it. Overjoyed, Rudo hurriedly runs back to his house to tell Retko about it, but he notices apostles on the way and wonders what they're doing here. When he enters the hut, he's shocked to see that a hooded man has stabbed Retko. He furiously attacks the man, but he knocks Rudo down and quickly escapes. Retko weakly tells Rudo to run away and change this world, but apostles suddenly enter and arrest Rudo, believing he was the one who murdered Retko. Later, Rudo is hung in front of the pit, and as he's about to be thrown in, he desperately shouts to Chiwa that Retko was murdered. However, she mutters that she never should have trusted him and throws the rabbit on the ground. Shocked, Rudo notices the hooded man in the crowd, and as he's thrown in, he angrily declares that he'll send them all to hell. Inside the pit, Rudo wakes up to see a giant monster in front of him and realizes this truly is hell. Rudo hurriedly tries to run away from the trash monster, but it duplicates into several other monsters that start chasing him. As Rudo falls down a hill, the monsters slowly approach him. He realizes his lungs won't be able to breathe the toxic air here and is about to give up. However, he suddenly remembers Retko and picks up a pole. He starts fighting the monsters and manages to kill two of them. A man suddenly appears and slaps a mask on him to help him breathe. As the monster is looking for him, the man whispers to Rudo that he should keep quiet, but Rudo keeps loudly asking him questions so the monster notices them. Annoyed, the man tells Rudo off and transforms his umbrella. The monster once again divides itself into several other monsters, and they start rushing towards them, but the man swiftly takes them out. Once that's done, he introduces himself as Engine. Later, Rudo wakes up to see that he's tied up in chains and is being dragged by Engine. He annoyingly asks Engine for some answers, so Engine says he's a cleaner. Rudo asks if there's any way to go back to his old world, but Engine says that's not possible now. Infuriated, Rudo declares that he wants to beat up the hooded man for killing Retko, and asks Engine how he can get back there, so Engine just throws him in front of two trucks and leaves. A group of men notice Rudo and start treating him really nicely when they realize he's a spherite. However, they turn out to be human traffickers who tie him up even more and declare that they're going to sell off his body. Rudo angrily bites off 2 fingers from one of the guys and suddenly starts unleashing some sort of power. He picks up a chain and transforms it, seeing which the guys and Engine realize he's a giver, someone who can give life to objects. The men hurriedly try to take the chain from him to render him useless, but they unexpectedly realize he can give life to more than one object at a time. As Rudo is about to kill the final guy, Engine stops him. He apologetically explains that he just wanted to see Rudo's power and asks him to join the cleaners since they need people like him. As Rudo is being patched up by an old doctor, he annoyingly says he has to get back to the real world, but the woman tells him to be quiet. After he and Engine leave, Rudo repeats that he has to go back up, but Engine reminds him that spherites aren't looked at too fondly here, so he's screwed if people find out the truth about him. They sit down to get some food, and Rudo is surprised to see that the pit is actually a real, bustling world. Engine explains that givers are people who can imbue an object near and dear to them with an energy called anima. He says cleaners really need more givers like Rudo, so Rudo asks if they can really teach him how to get back to the real world if he joins them. However, Engine admits he has no idea how to do that, but his boss is pretty knowledgeable, so he might have an idea. As he gets up, Rudo admits he really owes him. Engine throws him some money he got from selling his clothes and says he's going to meet his trainer next. Annoyed, Rudo remarks that he's leaving these jerks the second he gets the chance. A cat suddenly steals his pouch of money, so he rushes after it. He spots a staff in an alleyway and uses it to trap the cat and take his money back. However, a guy confronts him from behind and angrily says that's his staff. Rudo is about to fight him, but he remembers how Retgo told him to try and understand the other person's feelings as well. He apologetically says he didn't know it belonged to him, so the guy, Zanka, apologizes for being mean to him as well. Rudo realizes this is the first time he's successfully diffused a situation and tries to smile, but it's so hideous that Zanka keeps thinking he's trying to intimidate him. They argue a bit and start fighting, but even though Zanka is stunned to see that Rudo can turn anything into a vital object, he easily takes him down. However, Rudo grabs a plunger and rushes after him, so Zanka desperately tries to dodge him, but ends up getting defeated in the end. Engine returns and tells Rudo Zanka is actually going to be his mentor from now on. They get onto a car and Rudo meets another girl named Rio as they begin their journey towards Cleaner HQ. At the Cleaner HQ, Engine introduces Rudo to a woman named Semu, who reveals that her glasses are her vital instruments. She uses them to look inside Rudo and is stunned by what she sees. She says he doesn't need a lot of athletic training, but he doesn't possess the ability to control his power, so he needs to be taught in that regard. Engine and Rudo go to meet the boss, but they don't see anyone in the room, so Semu says he's gone somewhere for work and they don't know when he'll be back. In that case, Rio suggests that he should join her as a trainee and learn from her while she works. Semu sees that Engine didn't tell much about the world to Rudo, so she explains that the ground is divided into safe zones that support human life and garbage-tainted polluted zones where trash beasts live. The location Rudo came down in was an especially dangerous polluted zone, a no-man's land. There are 6 confirmed no-man's lands at present, and most people would immediately die in one, since these lands are swarming with trash beasts that even givers struggle with. Rudo and Rio head out with supporters, people who don't have powers but are still a vital part of the process. They notice some small beasts approaching the barricade, and Rudo asks Rio if they should be worried, but she says those are really easy to defeat. Larger bull-like creatures start attacking the barricade, but Rio still isn't worried. However, a gigantic beast suddenly appears as well, so Rio admits this isn't great to teach a newbie, but it still gets her blood boiling. As the fence is destroying, she whips out her scissors and starts swiftly taking them down. Rudo is surprised by how well the supporters are working with Rio. One of them is almost about to be killed by a bull, but Rudo instinctively jumps in and stops it before Rio finishes it off. After a while, Rio finally manages to take the large beast down. She says she was finally able to kill it by attacking its core, but she unexpectedly found a vital instrument inside it, which is something they've never seen before. The cleaners are having a welcome party for Rudo, but Engine notices that the man of the hour seems to be in a pretty ad mood, so Rio says he's bummed that he couldn't use his powers yesterday. One of the supporters, Grizz, introduces himself to Rudo and thanks him for saving Follow yesterday, but Rudo frustratingly says he fails to do anything when it matters most. And that's what always happened in the above world too, which is why Retgo got into trouble. However, Grizz tells Rudo he should stop just wanting to get stronger and should start thinking about what he really wants to do for himself. Engine sits down beside Rudo, and they notice a guy get up and start spray painting, so Engine says that guy is Gob. Semu receives a call and calls some cleaners and supporters. Zanka asks why Rudo is here when he's still a trainee, so she says it's because this request is relevant to him. She explains that another spherite has apparently been spotted, and someone has informed them that the spherite's been kidnapped. Engine wanted to go with Rudo, but he's got another job, so he's trusted Zanka to go with them. They head out and meet the girl who placed the request. She takes them to an abandoned building and suddenly pushes them all in. The ground suddenly turns into mud and they all fall to a lower floor. They get up and notice a man and a woman approaching them, so the guys realize they're raiders. They explain to Rudo that raiders are people who are givers and use their powers for evil. Grizz tells Zanka they'll leave these raiders to him, and they all quickly escape. As Zanka faces the raiders, they say they don't want to kill Rudo. They want to question him about the sphere. They start fighting, and it seems like Zanka is being overwhelmed. However, he deduces what their powers are and declares that they might have more experience, but he's more knowledgeable about his vital instrument. He slams his staff into the ground and swiftly defeats both the raiders, but another person suddenly appears behind him. The cleaners and Rudo reach a door, and Grizz senses that Zanka's done fighting. However, a guy slowly approaches them. They realize he's one of the raiders, and he says he didn't kill Zanka. He just knocked him down, but the toxin probably doesn't feel very nice. He says he wants Rudo to come back with him and effortlessly dodges 2 cleaners. Grizz steps in front of Rudo and declares that he'll protect him. The guy remembers hearing that cleaners go around with weaklings called supporters and tells Rudo he doesn't need these people before suddenly stabbing Grizz with his fangs, leaving Rudo stunned. In a flashback, Retko comes home to find Rudo smashing his head against the wall, and Rudo wearily mutters that he told him to not hurt anyone. Retko says the reason Rudo feels so meaningless is because he hasn't found anything that interests him. He takes him around the entire day, trying to show him different things that might interest him. However, none of these things truly grab Rudo. Rudo suddenly sees an apostle from the city throw something in the trash, so he rushes towards it. He takes the thing out and starts crying, questioning why something that's got so much life is being thrown away like this. Retko sees that Rudo can perceive the worth in things other people think are useless. Presently, as Grizz collapses, Rudo grabs his charm and suddenly unleashes his power. Grizz weakly realizes Rudo's power isn't turning random objects into vital objects, it's to bring out their full and uninhibited worth. Rudo angrily tells the guy he's going to disprove everything he just said and beat the hell out of him. In that case, the guy introduces himself as Jabber and starts fighting. However, Jabber isn't able to hit Rudo at all. It's revealed that this charm has the ability to not let anything hit Rudo, and Rudo uses that power to completely protect himself while beating Jabber up with his fists. As Jabber is thrown against the wall, he wearily says he realized something. This instrument only protects Rudo from things with hostile intent. He unexpectedly stabs himself with his toxin-filled claws and questions if the instrument will be able to detect hostile intent from him if he goes unconscious and starts wildly swinging around. As Jabber starts madly attacking, Rudo realizes he really can't dodge his attacks, but tries his best to keep him away from Grizz and Follow, since they won't be able to protect themselves against him. Zanka slowly approaches them and declares that he has a score to settle against Jabber. However, he mutters that he can't move around really well, so he won't be able to actually attack him. They figure out a way to actually attack Jabber by having Zanka try to attack Rudo with hostile intent so that the talisman can move him away and place him in front of Jabber. Once they try it out, it works and they swiftly start beating Jabber up. As Zanka lands the final blow and smashes him into the ground, he collapses since he can't move because of the toxin, and Rudo unexpectedly falls unconscious as well, so he realizes Rudo actually got hit by Jabber's claws during the chaos. Jabber slowly gets up and realizes his strategy worked out pretty well. Shocked, Zanka asks how he can still keep moving, so he reveals that his left claws can actually lessen the pain he's feeling a little. He picks Rudo and walks out with him while Zanka helplessly lies on the ground. However, as soon as he goes outside, he's surprised to see that he's been cornered by a group of cleaners. He smilingly declares that it doesn't matter how many of them there are, because he has an objective and has to fulfill it. However, a girl appears behind him and convinces him to retreat for now. Jabber agrees, hearing which Rudo wearily gets up and declares that he'll get his revenge on him. Jabber notices that Rudo's gloves are from the same series and says he's excited to face him again and disappears into a portal with the girl, surprising the cleaners. Later, Rudo approaches an injured Grizz and apologizes for breaking his talisman. He wearily says he cared a lot about it, but he thinks it's great that it helped Rudo out. Rudo is sadly sitting on a bench and tells Engine he's still the same, since people keep dying for him, but Engine comforts him and tells him to come in and pay his respects to Grizz. When he does, Rudo is shocked to see that Grizz is alive, so he cheerily explains that their only healer, Aishia, is really talented and thanks her for saving. The boss, Corvus, unexpectedly enters behind them and formally welcomes Rudo to the cleaners. He smilingly tells Rudo to come to his office since he has a change of clothes for him, as well as some information. He explains that a border lies between the sphere and the ground. It's said that all who try to reach the sphere die while crossing the border, but it said there's a woman who lives in the no man's land closest to the border. Once, a traveler got lost in the no man's land, and the woman helped them and revealed that she had seen people capable of crossing the border alive, so if Rudo could track her down, he could learn how to get back up to the sphere. Rudo gets, the cleaner's uniform and instantly tries to go find the woman, but Engine points out that he can't just stroll in there since it's filled with trash beasts and raiders. He tells Rudo that being a cleaner is about researching too, so there's a lot he needs to learn. They begin their training session, and Zanka tells Rudo to turn the object into a vital instrument, but he still can't do it, so they wonder if he'll be able to do it if they bring him some garbage. It works, and Rudo starts turning random objects into vital instruments one after another, but he gets a noseblood and they see that the gloves are too powerful for him right now. Rudo asks why the talisman crumbled into ashes when he used it. So Rio says it could be because the talisman had fulfilled its true purpose, which is really cool. Stunned, Rudo realizes that's true before Rio asks what Jabber meant when he talked about Rudo's gloves series, and they tell him to name his gloves. Rudo comes out of the bathroom one night to see Rio lying on his bed, and she says she came here because she heard him groaning in pain. She asks if it's because of his hands, so he confirms this and reveals that his parents gave him these, so she admits parents give us good and bad things and leaves. Later, Corvus informs Rudo that his face gear hasn't been finished yet by their tailor, and they don't like to rush him, so he'll have to wait a while longer. However, they need to get a spell cast on Rudo, so he'll have to canvas town for that. Rudo agrees and leaves with a group of cleaners and supporters. When they arrive, Engine says Canvas Town is a town where people are allowed to paint as much as they want, wherever they want. The man they want to meet, Gob, has the ability to cast spells, and they see that he's even cast a spell on the town gate to stop people with bad intentions from coming in. Inside the town, Rudo is stunned by how much art there is. They run into a girl before meeting the mayor, who unexpectedly reveals that Gob died because of body pollution, since he must have gone to the trash lands without a mask too many times. The cleaners stand in front of Gob's body in shock as the mayor reveals that Gob has chosen a successor for his vital instrument, and it's the girl they ran into before, Remlin. They're not sure how much time it will take for Remlin to learn to use the instrument, so the mayor apologizes to Engine, but he tells him to not worry about them. Engine sadly realizes he won't be able to see Gob's grin ever again, and decides that they should leave now. However, Remlin suddenly gets up, wipes off her tears, and says they should celebrate. She rushes up to the rooftop, so they go after her. She declares that Gob won't be able to enjoy the afterlife if they're all sad here, and uses her vital instruments to unleash some fireworks. She announces that they're going to party and artists all over the town. Pick up their paint buckets. Remlin sees that they want her to draw something that says reduce damage from one major hit on Rudo's body, and they're surprised to see that she can convert her brush into different instruments. Later, as they're leaving, Rudo thanks her for the help, so she cheerily says she'll come to the cleaner HQ as well. On the way, Engine reveals that they're going to give Rudo a little treat before they head back and takes him to a warehouse, saying he can pick anything he wants, so Rudo excitedly dives into the heap. Back at Cleaner HQ, Rudo meets the mad-sounding tailor August, who wildly says he's finished Rudo's face gear, and Rudo is surprised to see that he's Aishia's brother. Once that's done, the cleaners apply a little bit of their blood on Rudo's choker, and ask for his as well since chokers act as communication devices here. Later, they all arrive at Penta, the desert no man's land, and swiftly start taking out the trash beasts there. Once they're done, a girl approaches them, and she doesn't seem hostile, so they try asking her for directions. She coughs and asks if they can go back to her house and talk since the air here is really bad, so they agree but wonder why she's not wearing a mask. Engine admits this might be some sort of bait, but says they should still follow along and see what happens. Later, Rudo watches in shock as Engine throws up and collapses. Hour earlier, the cleaners walk with the girl, Amo, into a giant tower, and she says they don't need to wear masks here, so they take them off. They go to her room where she starts talking to them about romance. However, Engine gets straight to the point and asks if she knows how to get back to the sphere. Hearing this, Amo angrily realizes they just want to use her and says she's going to make them pay. Engine decides to just cut the crap and asks for answers before Delman suddenly attacks him from behind with his hose, and he falls unconscious. Stunned, the cleaners hurriedly get ready to protect themselves and wonder what's gotten into Delman as they dodge his attacks. Rudo suddenly gets transported back to the sphere in front of a group of apostles and wonders what's happening. As he's talking to himself, the cleaners realize the mask causes hallucinations and quickly put it on to not get controlled by Amo. Rudo starts seeing Amo as Chiwa and is initially furious with her, but he thinks the cleaners are the apostles and quickly steps in front of Amo to protect her. Tamsi and Zanka realize they're the only ones that still haven't been brainwashed and brace themselves. As all the cleaners rush towards them, Tamsi swiftly binds them all with his threads and tells Amo his vital instrument is a distaff which can be used for sewing. He tries seeing if a little pain makes them snap out of it, but it doesn't work and they're struggling to break free, so he ties them all into one huge knot and ties Amo up separately. Even still, she keeps trying to make the cleaners attack her, so Tamsi agrees to let them go and smashes them into the floor, making them drop several stories down into the ground. Shocked, Zanga tells Tamsi he went too far this time, but he asks if he forgot and reminds him that Remlin wrote a spell on all of them that saves them from one major hit. Once that's done, Engine gets up and takes off one of Amo's boots since that's her vital instrument, and she admits she can't control them anymore with just one boot, so they must have snapped out of it. Corvus asks Semiyu what she really saw inside Rudo since she seems disturbed, so she explains that there's something growing inside of Rudo that could destroy the world. Meanwhile, Rudo slowly approaches Amo and angrily starts beating her up, declaring that she was looking down on them and stomping on them while they were in pain. Shocked, the other cleaners quickly drag him off of her and Engine takes him away to have a word. Rudo depressingly realizes he regressed to how he was in the sphere, so Engine comforts him, after which he apologizes to Amo, and they learn that she saw someone going between the sphere and the ground. Amo was sold by her mom to a human trafficker who always wanted to perform a ritual with her. However, one day, two people suddenly appeared, took the trafficker's boots and gave them to Amo, saying they would fit her better. After that, one of them sprouted wings and flew into the sky with the other. The trafficker tried to take the boots back from Amo. A scuffle ensued and she accidentally pushed him out of a hole in the tower, making him fall to his death. Then, Amo lived alone in this tower, waiting for someone to become her friend, and 1 month ago, she saw the angel come back into the ground from above. She draws the angel's face, and Rudo realizes it's the guy who killed Retgo, so he angrily declares that he'll kill him, and he and Amo become friends. After the cleaners leave, Jabber appears at the tower and forcefully takes the boots from Amo.